I hope he's going to come prepared to talk about what he's for. But my guess is he's kind of signaling that it's all going to be about personal attacks.
Joe Biden right there, bracing himself for attacks from the president tonight on his son, Hunter Biden. The president has been signaling that in the last several days. I want to bring in Dan Abrams, our chief legal analyst, for more on this. First of all, we know that the president's attempt to get Ukraine investigate Hunter Biden's business dealings was at the heart of impeachment. He's never really stopped trying to make it an issue. What do we know about what Hunter Biden did, whether his father had anything to do with it?
So we start in 2014, where Hunter Biden gets this position on the board of Burisma, this major Ukrainian energy company. And there were questions about whether he was qualified for it. There were even some within the Obama administration who were saying that it was an appearance of a conflict of interest. Fast forward just over a year later, Joe Biden then pressures the Ukrainian government to fire its top prosecutor. The question is why? President Trump and his allies say it was to protect Burisma and Hunter Biden from an investigation. Problem with that is that the State Department, the International Monetary Fund, the European Union, the U.S. government's position was the prosecutor's corrupt, and it's not that he's protecting Burisma, it's that he's not investigating Burisma and companies like it. Nevertheless, the administration is still saying there was wrongdoing.
Right, and this has been investigated also by the Senate Intelligence Committee and also a separate committee of the Senate led by Republicans.
Absolutely. And again, the same conclusion, right? The same people being cited who were saying that they were concerned about an appearance of a conflict of interest with Hunter Biden's role. And even Hunter Biden, at this point, has admitted that in retrospect, he probably shouldn't have taken that position. That's a very different question from, did Joe Biden do anything wrong? Was Joe Biden influenced in any way in what he did as vice president?
We do know Russian intelligence has tried to amplify this story, and that the White House was warned that they may be trying to influence the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. He's been pushing this story hard.
Right, which is why there is often skepticism when Rudy Giuliani has been the source of information, because the White House was specifically warned that the Russians were trying to target Rudy Giuliani for disinformation. But, George, I don't think it's just going to be Ukraine and Russia that we may hear about tonight. We also may hear about China and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden from the president as well.
Right, and what we know about that is that Hunter Biden at one point did try to strike a business deal with China, take an equity stake in an investment fund, but now says that he never took any funds from that.
Biden didn't do anything wrong. This is great. They're having to address this with George Stephanopoulos.
Biden go after Ivanka Trump for trademarks, lucrative ones that she got from the Chinese government, followed by the administration rescuing a major telecom company. So far, in the last debate, Joe Biden didn't go there. We're going to have to see if he goes there tonight.
Likely to be an issue tonight. Dan Abrams, thanks very much. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody. It's just me and Recluse right now. I'm gonna turn down the volume for this music that they're playing right now, even though it's super serious.
Oh yeah.
Jeremy Rothkushel and Greg McCarran will be joining us shortly. That was very interesting. I was talking about with Recluse from visupview.blogspot.com. It's very interesting that George Stephanopoulos, who we know is owned hook, line, and sinker by the Clintons, his own connections to Epstein too. He actually talked about Burisma. I didn't even think. Of course, he kind of framed it as kind of left. Or a right wing. That was a right wing conspiracy there, but they still brought it up. I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were going to be completely silent on that. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I think, the initial attempt to ban it on Twitter was really a way to kind of hype it up more so, add, even more legitimacy to it. I mean, now it just kind of seems like what everybody's talking about is the whole thing with Hunter Biden and the Ukraine and so forth. And now I guess what they're trying to get China into the mix and just all of this other stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the perception that they're trying to create, however, that it's going to be not brought up, or they're going to tiptoe around it. But I do think they will try to drag in a couple of uncomfortable questions with that for Biden during the debate.
As they should. I mean, Biden's corrupt. They're all corrupt, and it'll be interesting to see if that ends up happening or not. And how much Trump will actually say. He's not going to talk about Skokovo. He's not going to talk about Privat Bank. I seriously doubt it's going to go that far. I think it's probably going to stay around Burisma. Do you think we're going to get your son's on crack comment by Trump? Which over under on that? Over under on that? Recluse, how much?
Oh yeah, it's just hard to tell at this point, man. Were they going through with actually muting them at some points during the debate or something like that?
They claim that they are, yeah.
Well, that could be interesting. I mean, it will theoretically give Biden more of a chance to talk this time around, which is both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, I guess we'll see exactly what happens. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, John, how are you taking the Clown Show 2020 thus far?
I'm enjoying it, It's starting to get really good. I'm kind of sick of it, though, at the same time. I was very much looking forward to this debate. But at the same time, I'm kind of have election fatigue. I just want to kind of get it over with,
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm kind of done with it. It can hurry up and happen.
Unfortunately, I think this election is going to linger like a particularly stale fart for a long, long time afterwards.
Yeah, because they have to count all of those. They have to count all of those early voting results in absentee ballots.
Oh, yeah, it's probably the inevitable lawsuits, the Supreme Court, and what have you. So what do you think about the one chick getting confirmed? Was it Barrett?
Amy Comey Barrett. Adding another Catholic to the court. I guess there's no Protestants. I guess some people would say.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the unwritten rule. You have to be either Jewish or Catholic to be in the Supreme Court in these United States, man.
Well, at least in the modern times. I know some people would say Neil Gorsuch is a Protestant, but he was Jesuit Catholic trained. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't expect anything. Everybody's all, I'm conservative in a lot of my beliefs, and I don't think that Amy Comey Barrett's going to do anything to move the ball forward. You got Kavanaugh in there. Kavanaugh helped to cover up the Vince Foster murders, and the Clintons got him. So he's going to be another swing Supreme Court justice like John Roberts is for the conservatives currently right now, So it really doesn't matter her getting confirmed. If anybody out there who's conservative thinks that they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade, well, good luck. That ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. It's all it is. If you guys think getting Trump in is going to put more conservatives on the court and they're going to swing decisions in your favor, nah. Now it's going to have to take at least 2 or 3 more justices. And you got to remember, what's his name? Franklin scandal. He never denied Lawrence C. King, ever. Or
Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas, yeah. He's gonna have to retire sooner or die. He's old.
Yeah, I mean, he has been on the court now for, like, what, about 30 years or something like that?
How old is Clarence Thomas right now? Let me see.
I mean, he got confirmed during the Bush 1 years, right? I mean, that had to have been, like, around, what, 1990, 91 or something like that?
72 years old, so...
Actually, I mean, for a Supreme Court justice, that's actually relatively spry, to be perfectly honest.
I guess you're right. I guess they tend to hang on forever, even though he's not too skinny. So I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm kind of looking at the ages right now to see. Okay, so we have...
Is he the oldest justice now that Ginsburg said? Or
no, Stephen Breyer is the oldest one. He actually, he's 82, but he's fairly skinny. And he, of course, he leans left. So
how old was Scalia when he shot his load?
I'm looking right now. I don't even know. About almost 80.
Ah, man. CT's, I mean, he's still young, man. I mean, I think he can last at least one more administration, but it wouldn't totally surprise me if he looks into retirement if Trump does get reelected towards the end of his second term.
So we have the youngest being Neil Gorsuch at 53. Stephen Breyer, he might retire. He's at 82. 4 years, maybe. You never know. Samuel Alito is 70. John Roberts is 65. Clarence Thomas is 72. Sonia Sotomayor is 66. Selena Kagan is 60. So, I don't know.
Oh, Thomas must have only been, like, what, 43 or something when he was confirmed?
Around there, yeah.
Must have been one of the younger Supreme Court justices in recent times.
Of course, they claim that the Anita Hill, everything that was brought up with Anita Hill, was a cachet over some Franklin stuff that was supposed to break against Clarence Thomas, supposedly. Clarence Thomas is just a scumbag. So.
He's a Catholic Supreme Court justice. I mean, what do you expect?
Whoosh, that's rough. That's rough right there. So apparently YouTube's having some problems because it's having some problems with ABC News chat, and my chat keeps getting disconnected. So there seems to be some YouTube issues, chat.
What a surprise.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, is the debate already humiliating enough that they don't feel that any additional commentary is needed from the peanut gallery or something to that effect?
Probably. I want to see a cage match like we called, last time, Recluse. I want to see Trump being like, say, like, crazy things about Hunter, and Joe be like, I had enough, and just go over there and just start punching him.
They could have those suits like the $1 Million Man used to have where you could just, like, tear it off. It was like Velcro or something like that.
Did you see the news story that was going around, and Trump even alluded to it during a one of his rallies that he was supposed to, when he got out of John Hopkins. Was it John Hopkins? No, Walter Reed. He was supposed to, like, walk outside and, like, rip off his shirt, and a Superman shirt was supposed to be underneath. So I wonder if that's gonna happen during the debate. He's gonna he's gonna take it off. Take it off.
There could be. I'm thinking there could definitely be some high camp in this, and yeah, I mean it's 2020. It's Trump versus Biden actually in a presidential election. I mean, it's a Saturday Night Live sketch that has become reality. I mean, anything is possible at this point in time. That's what you just have to keep telling yourselves. The rules don't apply like they used to anymore.
That is true. I have freedom, dude. Email me. We've read the documents at protonmail.com. I mean, I don't know. I guess, well, man, YouTube's having some weird problems right now. Oh, this is weird. This is really weird. Really, really weird.
Maybe somebody stole Trump's to pay, and they're waiting until they find him a fresh one before they can go live.
Gun show. I don't hate on people who are Catholic. I hate on the upper echelon of the Catholic Church, i.e., the Pope. There's a difference. Okay. One of my best friend's mother's down the street. She's Catholic and goes to mass, but she believes in Jesus Christ with her whole full heart.
Well, remember, though, I said Catholic Supreme Court justices.
Yes, I know, but some people say the moment you talk about the Catholics or the Jesuits, then how dare you? You know, you're Christian, and I'm like,
folks, I'm not talking about your average run-of-the-mill Catholics. No. I'm talking about the really exclusive ones.
Yes. Even though I don't think there's a lot of Catholics that believe in conspiracy culture that aren't much of a fan of Pope Francis. So.
This is true, but no, I mean, really, folk Catholicism is quite lovely. Recently I've been doing a lot of research into Mexico. Of course, this is for the World Anti-Communist League series that you've been helping me with. Going to be on the Tecos, but I mean, it's really fascinating to look at the Cristeros revolt and just how it was because it was very much a populist revolt from the lower level, friars and lower echelons of the Catholic clergy, the peasantry, the indigenous peoples, rising up against both the upper hierarchy of the Vatican on the one hand and the Masonic government that was essentially being installed from the north on the other hand.
Yeah.
All these just weird attempts to co-opt it and so forth. But I mean, it's just, especially when you look at Latin America, I mean, it is inspiring in a lot of ways to see what the folk Catholic tradition has managed in comparison to just the, degeneracy that characterizes the Vatican.
That is true. Hey, Suzanne, you here? Follow the Discord link. I wonder if Alex is going to show up.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You ready for the debate?
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited. I hope it gets really good. So, hey, George Stephanopoulos was talking about Burisma and Biden and everything a few minutes ago. I was shocked. I was actually shocked that he was talking about it. So.
What was he saying?
Just that it was real, but he was trying to frame it as a right-wing conspiracy. Well, at least the guess he had on, but at least they talked about it. So it had me shocked. So.
That's great. It's real, but it's a right-wing conspiracy.
And it's the left is all like it's Russia. It's Russia that does it. It's just ridiculous. They're all in bed with Russia.
Oh my God.
And then it's like one thing that really is getting really upset is how much everybody loves Rudy Giuliani and Bernard Kerik and Stephen K. Bannon right now for bringing this forward. And I'm like, well, what is this, the lesser of the two criminals, as Mr. Borkin said to me? And then it's like I keep telling these people, I'm like, well, if you lie in the bed with dogs, you're going to get fleas. Like, when did we think that Rudolph Giuliani and Bernard Kerik, the 9/11 duo, all right, and with Stephen K. Bannon, it's like, when do we start trusting these people? I mean, Rudolph Giuliani is CMP and CFR. He was CFR for at least a decade. It's so bizarre to me.
It's just typical, man. I mean, look at the just born again, thing that Rick Perry essentially went through. I mean, he was being utterly trashed by Alex Jones, and what was it, Endgame, which came out in 2005. Yeah. By the time the Trump era was upon us, I mean, he's now a born again hero of the freaking right. It's just, the cognitive dissonance of some of this. I mean, it's just remarkable. It's like you guys hated this dude 10, years ago, and now it's like, he's one of us. Yeah. No, he's not.
No.
Just goes to show there's no loyalty.
No. Did you guys see that email that came out with Frank Luntz, who's a CMP or that pollster? And it came up and he was like, I helped your father even though Paul Ryan in the 2012 election was paying me. And I was like, these guys are all in bed with each other. People don't realize this. It's ridiculous.
When did Beau Biden die?
I don't even know. Let me look.
It was during the Obama years, wasn't it?
Because in 2011, they were talking about Beau Biden in present tense.
Yeah.
Okay. No, all right. No wonder.
So I was about to say 2016, but it was May 30th, 2000.
Yeah, I was thinking like the second term or something.
Okay.
But yeah, and then of course, you know, Hunter having a relationship with Beau's wife, and then the inappropriate stuff with I believe the girl is Beau's daughter, I think, and Hunter FaceTiming her naked on crack, you know, and it's like, that's a little inappropriate there. That's a lot of inappropriate there, bud. Like, what you doing? You know?
Right.
So,
well, it said that he was putting the kids in danger because he walked around naked, smoking crack, and talking to TikTok girls or something, talking to something girls.
some prostitutes over there in China.
Yeah.
Yes. Parenting in modern America.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's just ridiculous.
And he's talking to his dad about it like it's completely normal.
Yeah, like, hey, Dad. You know, I show off my. I'm completely naked in front of my.
I was showing off my rocks while I was toking a rock
in front of my niece. It's all good, right? It's like what?
The Chinese dude said he had a 9.5-inch cock.
About spit water everywhere. Don't make me laugh, Suzanne. Good God.
I'm like, no, he can't really have one.
No, not with all that crap.
No, it had to have been photoshopped.
Stupid Miles Gual banning. What's the whistleblower? The one that you're talking about? There. Oh, what's his name?
I can't remember what his name is.
And he's saying the most outrageous stuff. That there was like bioweapon terrorist designs on Hunter Biden's laptop about the CCP coronavirus. It's like, what?
All of this requires receipts.
Yes.
Including the length.
Jeremy.
I totally want confirmation. That sounds amazing.
All right, we're down almost to the final minute until the debate starts. Are we ready, gang?
Yes, I'm pumped. It's gonna be great.
I ain't never ready.
Let's do it.
I'm really looking at Donald Trump in this because Joe Biden just has to stay steady and keep doing what he's doing. The question for me is, can Donald Trump be something different than he's been for 5 years? Can he get out of the bubble of everybody telling him the same thing over and over? And can he understand there's a whole group of voters out there that don't agree with him a lot and don't like him? And can he appeal to them in a fundamentally different way than he's done for 5 years? Because that's what he has to do.
That is a big question. Terry Moran, you get the last word.
And just to follow up on that, bring us together. That's what voters wanted in 1968, another tumultuous year. That was Richard Nixon's sense of the electorate. Does Donald Trump sense that people are tired
Jimmy Jean says Trump is Nixon
and the hatred? Can he do it?
Yeah, Nixon really was pushing to bring people together, too. All right, now it's time for the toad cries of law and order, law and order.
I'm gonna pause it actually, or not pause it, but turn down the volume until they actually. Oh, election year like no other. Well,
it's a year like no other in general. That doesn't
record
really say much,
record turnout. They got people to buy back into the system more than ever. Oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to participate in this clown show?
Science over fiction. Science over fiction. And yes, we choose truth over lies. It's time to stand up and take back our democracy. It's the most important election.
There's nothing more fundamentally American than voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, we still
Donald Barr's science fiction book is receipts of his son's intent.
Very much. So, okay, let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think that there more people voted in this election than the last election? It appears that way from early voting, but who knows,
I think so.
Think so? Okay.
I think so, too. There are way more people talking about it, about voting. Like, people in my family are saying, are you going to vote? People that never vote.
Yeah, I didn't vote. I'm not voting. I'm not voting.
I'm going to vote.
I
even I've bought in.
Jeremy, how dare you?
I'm growing conservative in my old age.
Okay.
I think we all get like that. Well, maybe not all of us. Obviously not all of us, but
Actually, I think I went more to the left as I've gotten older. I used to be much more conservative in my 20s, to be perfectly honest.
Jeremy, do you mean that John Kenneth Blackwell's voting for you? Is that what you mean? Is that what you meant there, bud?
I'm the mayor of Kansas City, and he better vote for me.
Exactly. Ah, man.
You got the Kansas City Prophets back in your play, man. Did they prophesize your victory?
No. And actually, I'm on the other side. I'm in Kansas, actually. We do raids. We do truth raids on Missouri, and then we get arrested.
There's no one near
the Kansas side, though.
Why is that guy wearing a mask? There's no one near him.
He's trying to be socially responsible, like the chick there who's probably in front of a green screen.
Just what?
Oh, this is priceless.
Who is it? What? Oh, this is ABC?
Yes.
This is very Nixonian. I mean, there is a lot of Nixonian aspects, including the players around Trump, and even like the Supreme Court stuff, the re-rise of the unitary executive.
Yeah.
A lot of that goes back to the Nixon and Watergate, and it really is a corruption of conservative principles in many ways, and it's even a corruption of the Federalist Papers. Is what it looks like to me.
Barr is a big pusher of unitary executive theory, the ultimate power of the executive branch. So it's just reminiscent of that, Jeremy.
It's true, and I've been delving a lot into civil rights law and First Amendment law, and the way that qualified immunity works to exempt police officers from being held accountable. And a lot of it is done via the protecting function. And that's the way the unitary executive is really supposed to be. Unitary executive function, not the unitary executive.
Interesting.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols.
Are we going to get entrances like the WWE? Is Trump going to play YMCA?
The hall has promised to remain silent.
Actually, it would be cool if they had that guy from the most recent Mad Max movie, the one with the electric guitar and the fire and stuff that came out to introduce Trump, man. So he would have to worry about his toupee catching on fire, obviously.
That is true. But it would be badass, though.
It would be. Biden took the mask off, at least. We got that, John.
That'd be funny if Trump spit towards Biden. Haha. Got COVID now.
No, blow his nose and then go hand the handkerchief to Biden.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer. And the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on. But on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that,
just what the American people want is to hear every word that you say. We'll begin with the fight against
the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places.
Those of you at home who are looking for something interesting to do during this, I would consider a drinking game for every time he says China.
The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida.
Fighting it hard.
You're saying like they used to say Sega during
Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming.
Oh.
It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks.
No.
And it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military.
It's going to be delivered by the military directly to your doorstep, like it or not.
Personal experience that I was in the hospital.
It will be in full combat gear when they deliver it.
I will tell you that I had
you will accept it and you will be grateful.
A therapeutic.
Or you'll be going to a camp with us.
And then you will
decide. Yeah, until you decide to take it.
Then you can get out.
And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that. But
it's not a lifetime.
More and more people are getting better. We have
it may be 2 months.
That's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do.
I'm doing such a fabulous job.
Take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns.
Is Biden falling asleep?
And in particular,
he doesn't look right. Is he okay?
Checking his notes.
For a minute there, I looked at him. He looked like he didn't seem where he knew where he was.
All over the world, it will go away.
Like I'm serious.
No, he looks very confused right now. Like,
okay,
it's kind of like, what is this?
To you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility.
How about leadership?
Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new.
But those aren't American lives, so they're.
Oh, they don't count. My bad. Sorry.
Collateral.
Yeah, oops.
As
collateral life.
The medical journal said they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told we could save
How about N95s?
100,000 lives.
How about real
masks?
masks?
A circumstance where the president thus far and still has no
It'd be kind of cool if he used the mask as a sock puppet at some point.
What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time.
These cotton masks, those gaiters, they work so well.
Testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we
vitamin D?
national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe.
Vitamin C, melatonin,
vitamin C,
something.
Do that.
Damn it.
Deep breathing.
Let's just take a bunch of ketamine. Say fuck it.
Most serious journals in the whole world said for the first time ever.
Couldn't be weirder than this.
What they did say cannabis was supposed to help with it, right? Wasn't there? I mean, just, medical marijuana for every American.
There you go.
I mean, that would actually probably get somebody elected, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, yeah. Sauerkraut, actually, and like kimchi, actually showed to be very effective against COVID around the world.
Okay, but do you really
heal your gut?
I think it has a good chance. There are 2 companies,
probiotics and
within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Heal your political guts.
Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Well, how about the Sacklers? They're not doing as well.
You have said
yeah, they got barely hit by anything.
Say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022.
I feel like this is a big advertisement for vaccines.
I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting
choose
on the
which pharmaceutical company you're going to get it from.
Over here we have Regeneron, and then Biden's like, we have Remdesivir.
Easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine.
Choose your own aborted fetus to plug into your veins.
As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
I mean, who could say no with salesmen like these two?
40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent.
We'll
see it.
Starting when?
That's a good one, Biden.
When are we starting with that?
Yeah. Right.
Who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. A dark winter. And he has no clear plan.
That is a definite drink. Everybody has to drink.
At least it's not the darkest winter, so that's looking up.
He says you
I don't
have no
think we're going to
plan.
have a dark winter at all. We're open.
The airstrikes against China haven't been announced yet, man.
And understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected.
Take a drink there, kids.
But China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now
I will
he's
say
saying,
this is a better debate so far.
I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me.
We're learning.
They're not talking about anything important.
He ran the H1.
Well, not really.
Yes, they wouldn't be at the debate if they talked about something important. I mean,
Right.
It was a total disaster.
they're supposed to talk about silly things that voters are supposed to think are important but aren't.
700,000
Right, yeah,
people
exactly.
would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease.
The nurses shut down the
His own
H1N1
person
vaccine,
who ran
actually, I
that
think.
for him, who, as you know, was his,
It was the nurses that did
chief of
that?
staff,
I think so.
said
Good.
it was catastrophic.
I mean, whoever
It was
did Trump's
horrible.
makeup
We
was
didn't know what
masterful.
we
I mean,
were
his
doing.
skin tone
Now
really
he comes
matches
up
just
and
the
he tells
toupee
us
this
how to
time
do it.
around.
It's
Also,
looking good.
everything that he said
It's I
about
guess
the way
it's
every
20 minutes
single
for the
move that he
makeup
said
and
we
an
should
hour
make,
and a half
that's
for the
what we've
hair
done.
or something.
We've done all
Hey,
of it.
Trump's looking
That
better
makes
than
sense.
Biden.
Behind
Biden looks
us.
like garbage.
Vice President
Man.
Biden,
God,
your
look at him.
response.
Yeah,
Our
Biden
response
needs
is
some
he is
makeup.
xenophobic, but not because he shut down
he-
access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that.
He's
In
looking a little
addition to that, what
ashy.
he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say?
Why didn't they
in
go to
January?
North Carolina
He said no.
into
He said,
the
"This
lab?"
he's being
Oh,
transparent.
no, they would.
The
Yeah,
president of China is being
with Ralph
transparent. We owe
Barrick?
him a debt of
Oops.
gratitude. We have to
China
thank
and
him.
EcoHealth?
And
Nah,
then
never.
what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get
Whatever
whatever's
happened to
needed
Charles Lieber?
out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump?
Trust the science. Hashtag trust the science.
We learned to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
Lock us up.
He
Lock
has
us
the
up.
ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace.
Oh!
He has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president,
This is getting
couldn't do
good.
that.
This
I'd
is
love
getting
to put
good.
myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half.
I think
until
you may
it
get your
disappears.
wish, John.
I can't do that.
Did you see that tongue of Biden's go down? That was fighting
Every meeting
tongue.
I
Yeah.
had,
Looks like
and
he's
I'd meet
gonna
a lot of
cry,
families,
man.
including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I
hugged
to.
them,
It would be
and then they
horrible
gave
to
me
have
the
canceled
code.
everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot.
And
Great
now I'm
doctors,
writing
great hospitals.
out.
And now I recovered. 99.9%
read it all in my new book.
of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to
What does it do to
recover.
their
We can't
testicles
close
over
up
the
our
long
nation.
term?
We have to
Oh,
open our
there are
schools,
studies.
and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You have
I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch out of habit where their wife or husband was is gone.
Play to emotion.
With it. Come on.
Play to emotion.
We're dying with it.
That's right.
Because he's never said, he said it's dangerous. When's the last
Nobody's
time?
supposed
Is it
to
really
think
dangerous
rationally.
still?
We're just supposed to go
We're
on our
dangerous.
emotions,
You tell
John.
the people
You know
it's
that.
dangerous
Of
now.
course.
What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault
No,
that he
you
came
don't.
here. It's China's fault.
Biden's like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Wow.
He got me with that one.
Wow, look at Biden's
For the
face.
most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including
He took
Europe and
responsibility,
ourselves.
damn it.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it
Where
hit,
did it come from?
What happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry. It's
Who
going to
built
go
it?
away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe in Jet
China,
Bleach, he said he was
by
kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said.
United
Even
States and
today, he thinks we
China?
are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that. But just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing.
We got the video to prove it.
He called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did.
I talked about the xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your
This has actually been pretty darn good, man.
Yeah. Close the border.
Well,
that's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part.
But what does that mean?
Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods, and he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online.
Oh, of course, because Boston gave a huge grant to General 4-star General Stanley McChrystal to handle their coronavirus.
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country.
Rest in peace, Michael Hastings.
You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Why didn't we have the N95s, the most powerful country in the world?
We
had to give them for the front.
We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open?
Give a bunch to Israel.
And we had to ship a whole bunch down there to warehouses in South America.
You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass
The government owned the
dividers
rights
so
to the machine and then never engaged it.
You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources you needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent.
Hey Joe, why did your one of your head foreign policy advisors for your campaign leave from Palantir, bud?
Not that many of you are going to die. So
and NSO, one of the advisors was also an NSO advisor.
President Trump, let me follow up with you.
Wait, he just said not that many of you are going to die.
What's happened to New York?
Wow.
It's a ghost town.
But
it's
yet
a ghost
he
town.
keeps
And
droning
when you talk
on about 200,000
plexiglass,
people have already
these are restaurants
died.
that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much.
These
That
are
he is
businesses
right about
that are dying,
that.
Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving.
Last time I saw, there was a lot of sidewalk activity.
Make it all about himself. My wonderful city.
And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans.
Well,
and
it's
what
going
we
to
have
shift
to
from
do
cities
is say,
to rural
wear these
areas.
masks,
That's how it
number
ebb and
one.
flows.
Make
Biden.
sure we
It's
have
already
the help
saying that,
the
John.
businesses need that has money's already been
I don't get the
passed
sense
to
that
do
Biden
that.
wants
It's
red
been out
states
there
to
since
suffer
the
like Trump
beginning of the
wanted
summer,
blue states
and
to
nothing's
suffer, though.
happened.
President
I
New
disagree
York
with
has
that.
lost
I
more
don't
than
think so.
40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when
about-
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. It's unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing
They're
in the
both
world
working really
by
hard
far.
to stay
That's
calm.
why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section, President Trump. This week, you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described
But you also he also praised him.
pretty accurate, honestly.
It is, but he also praised him.
Who are you listening to?
So he did both.
I'm listening to all of them.
Trump did
including
both.
Anthony.
I heard him in a
get along very
rally.
well with
There you go.
Anthony. He did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you
Like
know,
the CDC.
Oh, my
this is
God.
not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all.
Amazing
When Joe
for
says
Trump to
that,
bring this up about
I
anybody,
said,
you know. I
Anthony
mean, I understand
Fauci
it goes
said,
both
and others,
ways.
and many others, and I'm
There
not
was a-
knocking him a lot. Nobody knew.
But, I mean, it's
nobody
amazing
knew
for
what
Trump
this
to
thing was.
accuse other
Nobody
people
knew
of saying,
where it was
"Don't wear
coming
masks."
from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to
And your
make
boy
mistakes.
Tucker
He
Carlson
happens to be a good
contradicts
person.
himself every other
Vice
night on
President Biden,
masks.
your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next
My
section.
response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people.
Think about what he knew in
He was
November.
told this was a serious
Exactly.
virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than much
That's
worse.
what no
in
one
the
will
air?
talk about.
He went on record and
Harris,
said
yeah.
to one of your
I know,
colleagues,
but they're not saying that.
recorded that in fact he
CDC
knew how
actually
dangerous it
finally came
was,
out
but he
with
didn't
that.
want to tell us.
But then
He
they
didn't want to tell
retracted
us
it.
much. He
Did they
didn't
come
want us
back
to
out and say it
panic.
again?
He didn't want us.
I don't know.
Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing.
What about what
and a
we
memo
found
out
out
of
in
that
the
meeting,
Post?
not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going
one
to give
I-
you
this is
30
one I
seconds to
haven't-
respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, you know. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
And
I would
Joe won't
blow
bring up
away
Deutsche
every
Bank, so
record, but
he's
I don't
gonna
wanna
be
do that
impotent on
because
this.
it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street.
Bring up
Because
the
you're
Russian
one that takes the
laundromat.
money
I
from
would
Wall
be
Street.
going nuclear. I would be
I
going
could blow
nuclear on the
away
Trump
records.
family.
Yeah, I'd be
if I
going
were
nuclear
Biden. But he's
immediately.
not going to.
We
He's
have
not
plenty of
going
money.
But then
In fact,
he can go nuclear
we
on
beat
back
Hillary
on
Clinton with a
Biden.
tiny
You know?
fraction of the money
But
that
the
she
thing
was
is, though, is that you've heard all about the Biden
Contribution
scandals. You've heard very little actual
We're going to
substance
move
when
on
it
to our
comes to
next
Trump
section,
scandals.
which
As
is
much noise
national
as the media
security.
makes.
And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight.
Iran.
Just last
Iran.
night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election.
The Israeli intelligence officers that run our cyber command told us that Iran is trying to attack us.
Intimidating messages to Florida voters.
Oh,
This question goes to
Proud
you,
Boys.
Mr. Vice President. What would
They
you
were the
do
Proud
to
Boys.
put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge.
Oh, take the pledge. It's like take the oath, but on the left. Take the pledge.
Interferes in American elections will pay a price.
Where we go one, we go all.
Will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear.
So are we going to go after the Israelis, the British, Joe? They've only, I mean, the British have only been rigging our elections since like the Second World War, at least. I mean,
that Iran is involved. They will
tried to burn down the Capitol.
If I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering
Joe's
with
getting hard on
American
Iran.
sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything.
You don't have to
Putin
be Jewish
about
to
it.
be Zionist,
I don't think
as he
he's
said.
stalking
That
him
is
a lot.
true.
I don't think he said
That's
a word.
right.
I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the
But the
Iranians.
Israelis?
speaks
But
to
the
the
point is
Iranians,
this,
Joe. He
folks.
speaks with
We are in a
tomahawk missiles.
situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own
Companies or
national
countries or
security
both?
advisor told him that what is happening with his
corporatism.
See,
Well,
Biden
I
won't
should-
touch
well, I
Israel so
will.
people can get
His
away
buddy,
with claiming
Rudy
he's the real
Giuliani,
Zionist
he's
as
being
opposed to
used
Trump
as
when
a
they're both
Russian
the
pawn.
Zionists to the
He's
core.
being fed information
But Trump's a
that
different
is
level,
Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
And he won't talk
when
about
he's engaged
Netanyahu,
in
who's part of the
activities that are
operation, who
trying
also
to
wants to keep
destabilize
in
all
Trump.
of NATO.
Wow,
I don't know why he doesn't do
Biden.
it, but it's worth asking the question, why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President
Except
Trump,
the Israelis
same
and the
question
UK,
to you.
of
Let
course.
me ask the question. You're gonna have
And
2
our own
minutes to
domestic
respond for 2
elements who've been
elections in a
rigging
row.
elections.
And by not holding
Yeah.
Israel accountable, you're not holding Russia
Adversaries.
accountable.
What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes.
They work
uninterrupted.
together.
Let me respond to the first part as
Saudi
Joe
Arabia,
answered.
UAE
Joe
as
got
well.
$3.5 million
That's
from
interesting. He
Russia.
wouldn't mention them.
And it came through Putin
Saucy.
because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow and Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million. And you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now,
Except from the Red Mafia for decades. And Joe will say
John
pathetic. No
Wycliffe,
one will
who's
bring it up.
fantastic DNI. He said, the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me in Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I
helped end the nuclear agreements just like Putin wanted.
There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine.
Aaron Mate's
port.
having
You
a field day
remember
with
that
this.
He
very
loves
well?
it.
During
He loves
your
it. He loves it.
term, during you
Aaron
and
Mate's
Barack
going to vote for
Obama,
Trump this year.
They took over a big part
No, he's
of
not.
what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money.
No,
from
he just
Russia.
interviewed
They were
Chomsky
paying you
about
a
how
lot of money,
Al Gore
and they
stood down for the
probably
good of the
still
country.
are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation
Give
to
details,
the American
Rob, give details.
What is it? Somebody just had
Give
a news
details.
conference a little
Go for
while
what?
He doesn't
ago who
have
was
to,
essentially
John. We have to
supposed
trust
work with you and
Giuliani
your
and
family.
Bernard Tarek and
But what he said was
Breitbart conceived in
damning.
Israel,
And
Steve Bannon. We have to trust
regardless
these
of me, I think you have to clean it up.
And he's not
going to
push back
American
against
people.
it
Maybe you can
effectively.
do it
Biden
right
won't.
now.
No, of course not. He can't.
Vice President Biden,
What the
you
hell's
may
Biden
respond in
doing?
30 seconds, and then I do want to follow
Trump's
up
just
on the
walking all
election
over him
security.
on
I
this
have not
aspect.
taken
As sad
money
as it
from
is.
any foreign source
It's because
ever
Biden's a
in
paper
my
tiger.
life. We learned that this president paid
Chinese bank
50
account.
times the tax in China, has a secret
There you go.
bank account with China, does business
Shots
in
fired back.
China, and in fact is talking about
He
me
paid
taking
more taxes
money.
in China
I have
than
not
he did
taken
the
a single
United
penny
States.
from any country whatsoever.
Biden's getting
Ever.
back.
Number one. Number two. This is a president. I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return.
It's because he launders money through his golf courses.
Foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your
Biden's not going to provide any context about any.
And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release?
How about your son-in-law's relationship with Putin's rabbi?
Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants.
That's beyond third rail.
I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show
how
successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago. I said, "What did I pay?" They said, "Sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars." I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because
at least 10% of the
it's an estimate.
Red Mafia money I gave back to the U.S. government.
Oh, Trump's actually on the defense here. He's going the offense. What are you doing, Trump?
And it wasn't written. Whenever they write this, they keep talking about $750.
He's sensitive around his taxes.
He is, man. Biden knows he's hitting them there.
I prepaid millions and millions.
So Biden's going to have a follow-up going back after the taxes again. Biden might win this part.
You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from...
This changed from about 3 minutes ago because I thought Trump was just walking all over him. Not so much now.
They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man.
I don't know.
You're the big man,
Trump's getting them right now.
I don't know. Maybe you're not. But you're the big man.
It all depends on what Biden says after
we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this. But I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated.
Oh, worse than the NRA.
I need a TDL, Trump Defamation League.
I get treated very badly.
I'm eating worms at the moment.
Doing worse than the NRA. They went after Waylon Pierre. He's a great guy.
They hate me for who I am because of how good I am. It's because I'm a 33rd degree prosperity gospel Mason.
My mentor was Norman Vincent Peale.
Questions regarding your potential
Stop being so negative.
I had a sexual relationship with
Talk about this more broadly. Respond
Joe Biden sniffs more random girls' hair than I did Ivanka's when she was a teenager.
Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes or your
comes the finger.
Are so low.
The angry grandpa finger,
man.
He said, "I only pay that little because."
Wonder if Alex Jones is ranting about Biden being infused with adrenochrome, right?
Come on, folks.
Right now,
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both. Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both.
Biden is made of adrenochrome.
Through a phony witch hunt.
He's been sniffing it out of the black mask, man.
It started.
This is what I really don't
and
like.
the hair of
As
teenage
part of
girls.
my campaign, no president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me
The worst
just
ever.
say this. Mueller,
Worse than even the
and
Jews.
18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million.
They hate me the most.
They went through everything I had, including my tax returns.
Well, they did,
and
but
they found
maybe.
absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong.
Don't tell Louise Minch. She still has hope.
$1 million on you, Joe.
They established that you obstructed evidence, and then your attorney general covered it up.
The monies that your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in.
And his top Democratic rivals don't want to go there because of their devotion and loyalty to Israel.
For you, Joe, and they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
Here's what the deal.
We had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a LBRY, a company that somehow I had done something wrong.
You got like.
Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, "I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one
I was
single
corrupted, but no
solitary
one
thing
cared.
was out of line. Not a single thing. Number one. Number two,
clearly
the guy
both of
who
them
got
were
in
talked
trouble
to
in
about
Ukraine
talking
was this
over
guy
each other.
trying to bribe the Ukrainian
Bring
government
up
to say
Manafort and
something negative
Firtash.
about me, which they would not do and did not do because it
His
never,
campaign manager
ever,
was
ever
owned
happened.
by Ukrainian
My son
oligarchs.
has not made
See,
money
Biden nor
in
the
terms of
moderators will
this
bring
thing
this
about,
stuff up, and
what
therefore
are you
the
talking
talk
about
radio
China?
hosts of the world
I
can
have
convince
not
you that
had
there's
it.
nothing
The only
to
guy
it.
made money from China is this guy. Nobody else made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask
The Steele dossier does say that, too.
One thing.
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time.
Come on, Joe.
Was
Now that was too
sadly
much
no
there.
longer
Good
in
God.
the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Oh, come on,
President Trump,
Joe.
this is for you. Since you
My
took
son
office,
smokes
you've
crack
never
and walks
divested
around
from your
naked, and I'm
business.
okay
You've
with
personally
that.
Never
promoted
done
your
anything
properties
wrong
abroad.
either.
A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was opened in it was
Same year he
closed
went to
in
Miss Universe in
2015, I
Moscow.
believe.
Yep.
And then I decided because
That's
I
when they
was going
started
to
this
do, I was thinking
operation.
about doing a
Elliot
deal in
Brody
China,
know a
like
thing or two about that?
Yeah, he
millions of
does.
Other people. I was thinking about it, and I
One
decided I'm
MDB?
not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it.
China,
I had an
Israel?
account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
No one brings
Excuse
it
me.
up.
And
Eric
then,
Prince,
unlike him,
Belt
where
Road
he's
Initiative?
vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president.
Frontier
after that.
Services
That was
Group?
Before. So I closed it before I even ran for president,
Cambridge
let
Analytica,
alone became president.
NSO.
Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up.
Your son's hot.
Thank you. We do
They don't do
I
emoluments.
wanna
The Trumps
ask
don't
you,
do emoluments.
Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course,
Let's talk
President
about
Trump
China
has
and
said
Israel.
that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China
Biden doesn't
pay?
want to
And please
discuss
be
Trump's
specific. What would that
quote
look like?
peace
What I'd
accomplishments
make
because he
China do
doesn't
is play
effectively
by the
argue against them.
international rules, not like he has done.
Yep.
He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one.
And actually, his
number two,
bad
we're in a
COVID
situation where
response was based
China
on
would
his
have to play
compromise
the
by
rules
China.
internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I
but
was still
Biden, I
vice
don't think
president, he
would do
said
any
we're
better.
setting up air identification zones in
I don't know.
the South
Yeah.
China Sea. You can't
They're
fly
all
through
marching
them.
the same
I said we're going to
order
fly
of
through
time.
them. We just flew B-52 B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to
both owned
play
by China
by
and
the
Russia,
rules.
different
And what's he do?
And
He
Israel.
embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and
Saudi
the
Arabia?
Chinese president and Putin and others. And
No,
he
not Saudi
pokes his
Arabia.
finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We
Oh, my
need to
God,
be
you're not
having
doing
the
good
rest
here,
of our
Biden. You're
friends
floundering.
with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's
talk
the
about
way I will run
domestic
it, and
production.
that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a
Infrastructure.
range of other things when we were president and vice
That would
president.
free us
All
from
right,
China.
let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North
with $1.5
Korea.
billion
Oh,
from
my
China
gosh.
after spending 10 minutes in office.
Let's
and being
talk
in
about real
Air Force
issues.
Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China-
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from
Yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China paid $28 million, and you know what they did to pay it to? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything.
Get them votes. Get them farm subsidy votes.
I charged them 25% on dumped steel.
We need to feed more people more soy.
And more GMO corn with the glyphosate.
Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look.
The Chinese love our glyphosate soy.
Bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family,
I'm getting lectured right now. I don't know how I feel about this.
You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding.
Sit down.
Even doing the tomahawk chop
because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want to talk about North Korea. I do want to turn to
it is typical also.
Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that. Typical politician.
Okay.
That's why I got elected.
Trump just wants to scare families about how evil the other side is.
Sitting around the table. Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile.
His letters give my little mushroom a little hearty.
Arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House.
Hussein.
Right at the beginning.
Why did he say
conversation.
Hussein?
It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour.
Who co-hosted for this debate? I know Chris Christie did. Who did this time? You guys know?
He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea.
Who coached Trump this debate?
It would be a nuclear war, and he does have
somebody told him not to keep talking over.
In the meantime,
they were both instructed like not to try to be
different kind of a guy, but he probably
talk over
thinks
each other.
the
I can
same
tell
thing about
that.
me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, "Oh, there's going to be trouble." I said,
he almost
no,
ended the Korean War.
He's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war,
that was one of the
best
best potential moments of his early presidency.
Millions,
never quite happened.
But even then, there's ulterior motives at a deeper level as well. So, but I agree with you on the surface. Yes.
President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear as a spokesperson of the administration.
Israel micro-nuked Manhattan. You think you could talk about that?
Your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us.
I wanted at least one Biden thing where he was like,
it's going to continue. What has he done?
Where am I?
He's legitimized North Korea.
Just one.
He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug.
We're going to sanction their kimchi.
He talks about how we're better off, and they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily.
We're reinforcing the Iron Dome.
With you, Vice President Biden, you've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un.
Less nukes, more kimchi
Are there
is my
any conditions under which you would
foreign policy.
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to.
Who's Israel going to truck and barter the nuclear pits they stole from Sandia Lab and stuff?
He wouldn't do it. He didn't like.
Or from the Hanford
Obama.
plant, I think.
He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I got to give him a chance to respond to that before we move on.
And that's okay. You know what, North Korea? We're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to. Your response.
And we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded.
Whoa!
Come on. The reason
Biden next
he was on the cover of Time magazine.
He was.
I want to be.
Wasn't he man of the year?
Yeah, or something.
I'll find out. I believe he was, actually.
That's why he wouldn't meet
That's a
with us.
Warhawk statement to say. Good God.
Yeah.
North Korea's like Kim Jong-il is Hitler, really?
Biden lost the.
Hitler was man of the year in 1938.
Biden lost that one. Biden lost. Biden, what are you doing?
My first 3 months before we sort of worked things out.
What's that principle about whoever talks about the Nazis first loses?
And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Y'all remember Biden said Kim Jong-un is literally Hitler.
One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court.
I was wondering if they're actually going to talk about anything other than like COVID and this other.
It's kind of hard to make the case, even on the surface, that this moderator's been anti-Trump biased, because you could at least claim that with Chris Wallace, although I don't think it's actually the case. But here it's kind of hard to make that case.
I'm sure they'll figure some way to spin it, though. I mean, you know they will.
Those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance.
And Trump's not making a complete ass of himself this time either. Actually, neither of them are. So
taken away. You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Shut down Monsanto.
Nobody thought was possible.
Yes.
Through
Agreed.
the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate.
That's
That is
on our
the worst
platform, right?
Part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better.
Does he have a plan?
It no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate,
is it good?
It's much different.
It's basically
Obamacare. Will always stay. What I would like to do is
Obamacare, which was originally, I believe, a Heritage Foundation.
Will always protect
but
people
it stinks from Romney.
So I'd like to terminate Obamacare.
Yeah,
come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there's tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House.
The bills you get from the hospital are going to be beautiful.
Okay, you'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people.
They're going to be printed specifically by one of Donald Trump's own companies just for the recipients.
That have great
DeVos. What was DeVos's healthcare
Far
company?
More than we're talking about with
there you go.
Spectrum Health Services.
Spectrum Health Services is going to be involved.
They have like a CNP logo like embroidered on it or something like that.
Spectrum Healthcare and Palantir tracking.
180 million people, families. Under what he wants to do, which
and
will
Spectrum Health presents the most beautiful healthcare plan ever.
They want to terminate 180 million plans.
You even get a complimentary Peter Thiel Christmas card.
And we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
You stupid people.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It'll become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be...
Is it without a mandate? Then it's...
And you do not have the wherewithal... in your state to get Medicaid,
I've got to make the government and the insurance companies both rich at the same time.
That's what's going to happen.
Or,
so
but you could also see it as like that you want to force them to compete. That's real free market stuff.
That doesn't exist now.
Is have like cooperatives, public options, and corporate sector all compete for insurance.
Yes, but it would have to be structured that way. And you and I both know that ain't going to freaking happen.
Private insurance. The reason why I had such a
we're talking utopianism here.
Sorry. I'm talking about utopia. It's a place.
Private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else.
It just went up in price massively.
We're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None. Zero.
Including COVID now?
In the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that
weird laugh.
He's already cost the American people because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their.
I will say his eyes look less demonic in this debate.
Yeah, they do. They don't. Well,
they don't have quite the pit black that they had in the previous one.
The last debate, they were looking really off.
All the people
I think I can see a pupil.
Maybe.
What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine.
This is a better
What do you
debate.
say to people who have concerns that your health
Far
care
better.
plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system?
It'll make the American people feel better about this being.
Although there's still another hour, guys.
Oh God, there's another hour.
Oh, I don't know exactly another hour.
I think 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was like hoping we were getting close to the end here. Damn
The
it.
difference between the president,
Well,
I think
at
healthcare
least
is
half
not
hour,
a
I mean.
privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as,
that sounds great.
a whole range of
Trump
other
got
people
the
who, in fact,
socialist
are
medicine
concerned
at
in the
Walter
medical
Reed,
field.
really.
This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity.
Did you guys see that McConnell had a whole bunch of really bad bruises on his hands?
Tonight wondering
Yeah.
He had some major. He's not. Look, his lips were
because
blue
you've
too. I
lost
think
your
McConnell
home
might be
insurance,
dying. guys, like,
your health
legitimately
insurance, your
dying.
company's
What
going
is
under.
it, do you think?
We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate.
COVID-19 possibly microdeletions.
He might be on blood thinners.
Could be. It's either one or the other.
He was
Yeah.
there as vice president for 8
Could
years.
be on blood
and it's
thinners
not like
because
it was
of COVID,
25 years
actually.
ago.
That is true,
It was
Could be.
3 3/4.
shots.
It was
Yeah.
just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything.
Looks
He
like
didn't
bleeding
do it.
under the
He
skin.
wanted
It
socialized
looked really
medicine,
bad
and it's
even
not
for
that
his
he
age.
was
It did.
his
It's.
vice
I mean, look at his
president.
lips. His
I
lips
mean,
is what's most worrying.
She is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The
Wait a
Democrats
minute.
want it. You're going to
Kamala's more liberal than Bernie? What the hell?
Supposedly her
wait.
her voting record supposedly was, if you counted the votes.
Really?
But that's not what the narrative's supposed
It's
to
probably
say.
the gun votes,
And he
actually,
says,
though.
Oh yeah, I
we're
can see that.
fracking.
I can see that actually.
And
yeah.
you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this. I have to say.
By the way,
Wow.
Somebody should ask the question.
Oh, she actually liked that. She was like,
She blushed.
We have a
She
number of
did.
topics.
No, no,
That was sweet little moment.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
You're not Leslie Stahl.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the
Affordable
Biden care
healthcare.
proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care.
You mean
Lower
insurance?
premiums. And what we're going to do is going to cost
Do they
some money.
deserve to have
It's
guts
gonna
that are
cost
not
over
poisoned
$750
daily?
billion
No.
over 10 years to do it.
No.
And
No.
they're going to be able to
No.
lower premiums. You can buy into the better
My plan
plans,
will
the
make
cheaper
sure-
plans, lower your premiums.
We
deal
will
with
manage. We will manage your
unexpected
cancer
billing,
until the
and
very
have your
bitter end.
Drug prices drop
We will
significantly.
keep you
He keeps
on
talking about it. He
painkillers and
hasn't done
opioids
a
until you
thing to
die.
anybody on healthcare.
Exactly.
When he says-
There'll be death panels, but it's okay.
He's talking about socialized medicine.
You will
And when he-
love the golden
and healthcare.
shots.
When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare.
We're going to spread the
and
opioid
destroying your
wealth
Social
around from
Security.
just the
And this whole
Sacklers.
country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state.
Don't worry
He
about our
tried it in his
seniors.
state.
Morphine
His governor
flow like
was a
water
very
in our
liberal
nursing
governor. He wanted
homes.
to make it work.
Let's hear
It was
Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President Biden.
You're
I
pumping
heard
laughing
morphine
gas.
is cheap
Somebody
as
else.
water.
He's
Yeah.
running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden is running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to
I think the
destroy Medicare,
DNC
this is
helped
the guy
install
that the
you.
actuary
I'm
of
pretty
Medicare
sure
said,
Bernie
if
was
in
rigged
fact,
out,
at Social
Joe.
Security,
I mean, I'm no fan of
Yeah.
Bernie,
he
but I
continues
mean,
to
I'm pretty
withhold
sure.
his plan to withhold
Twice,
the
twice.
tax on Social Security.
But then again,
Social
Bernie just
Security
laid
will be
rolled
bankrupt
over.
He didn't
by
protest.
Hey, he got another beach
2023.
house. He didn't get a black eye this time.
No way to make a
That's true.
Literally.
So, I don't know. I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare, Come on.
Talk about Joe Biden.
That's your fault, Joe.
Obamacare took care of so many people's health.
Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on. I'm going to move on.
Mr.
President,
he went from sniffing Social Security's hair to actually hurting it.
If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move on to the next question very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market.
That's true, too.
Just in the last three years during this
What
crisis,
are you going to do about it, though?
The billionaires
Exactly.
in this country
What is he going to do?
Nothing.
Wall Street, $700 billion more.
It's amazing when you actually think about it. Biden can actually have a better case to being a so-called, person of the people based on his background, but his career does not match the background and all that.
Not at all. No.
But on the surface, like, he's much more could present himself as like a person of the people than Trump can.
Yeah, if he wasn't a swamp creature, he could have done something with himself.
He lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
We're going to move on to the next question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need?
Nancy Pelosi.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do.
Well, Nancy Pelosi and McConnell don't want to approve it.
That's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories.
I want a $3. I want a $3 trillion bill to increase the debt to levels higher than they've ever been.
Don't forget.
But Nancy was so mean to Wolf Blitzer, who works for my boy Jeff Zucker.
In all fairness, this one she
Mitch
doesn't want.
McConnell won't let me do it because his boys at the Coke and the Federalists want to turn on the austerity again.
I want to give you $3,000 checks a
He
person.
can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican
That might be
friends?
true.
Let me follow
That is
up with
true.
you, Vice President Biden, because let me ask Vice President Biden a question. You are the
They
leader
want
of the
austerity.
Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Oh, whoa!
Because we're playing politics.
This is like it's not new.
But when it counts, they ram through unaccountable for bailouts for big business, just
for
like
Amazon.
in 2008, 2009.
Democrats ain't for helping the people.
And the one congressman who tries to hold people accountable, any semblance of accountability, got attacked by Trump and John Kerry alike.
To fire firefighters, teachers,
Who's
first
that?
responders,
Thomas
law
Massey.
enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He
Wait, Massey
will
said
not
what?
support that.
I was referring to back when Massey tried to have accountability for the basically what was the bailout that the
corporate bailout.
Real quick bipartisan agreement on that was rammed right through, and he tried to have a vote on it and everything, and he was just attacked across the aisle for it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily
All run by
hate
Democrats,
Massey.
cities and states.
But there's issues
good
there
on
as
some
well.
stuff. Yeah.
He whispers in my conservative ears.
It was also
Thomas Massey says sweet nothings to me.
But he also kisses Trump's butt really hard too. in that last part.
As he's giving the 60th anniversary John Birch Society speech.
And what that does,
He's like, hey John,
to help them.
I'll say some good things to you, you know.
All over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president.
Not a
I don't
proud
see red
boy.
States and blue states. What I see is
Stand back
American,
and
United
stand by.
States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers.
The tomahawk duck is really flying right now. Look at that thing.
What's interesting about this is that I have no delusions that both Republicans and Democrats are complicit in like the division in our society. But, you know, Trump thrives off this narrative. It's all the left that's causing the division, the Democrats. But, I mean, rhetorically, Biden sounds much more like, at least rhetorically, not that the actions meet the words, but rhetorically sounds much more like he wants to actually bring people together than Trump does.
Yeah, but that's standards and norms, though.
They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller.
The rhetoric
how they can
on
hire
all
more
sides
teachers,
is
how they can put
poisonous, though,
ventilation systems in. They
I agree.
need the help. The businesses,
And so does
as
Black-
well
the
as
Blackstone
schools
Group.
need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to.
So does Jeff Bezos.
But I want to get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said
He's
very
not wrong
different.
about this.
It's very
No.
important.
No, he's
We
not.
have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
No,
wage to
there is some truth to
$15
that.
an hour. You
Yes,
said
there
recently
is.
you
Even though the
consider
minimum
raising the
wage
federal minimum wage to
does need to
$15
go
an hour.
up,
That's still the
but-
case?
And I would consider it.
The thing is,
to
though,
an
is that the
extent.
minimum, you know, it cannot match the constant inflation and the constant rise in
Not to a
prices.
level that's going to put all
No.
these businesses out of business. It should
The
be a
federal
state
government
option.
could tax
Look,
corporations
in
and
different
use that
places,
to
I
pay
know
the
different
differences
places.
for
They're
small
all different.
businesses
In some places, $15 is
hike
not
of the
so
minimum
bad.
wage, but they won't
In
do
other
that.
places,
They would
other
never
Yeah, or
places,
just even the just Tobin
President
tax,
Trump,
and not even
one
just
response, Vice President Biden.
0.1%
One
tax on like
job.
the quant hedge fund
Below
guys like
poverty.
Mercer's.
Yeah, but they
People
would
are
never do
making
that
$6,
either.
$7, $8 an hour. These
It would actually make
first
Wall
responders, we all
Street
clap
more
for
stable
as they
and
come down
more
the street
effective.
There would be
because
so
they've
much
allowed us to
speculation.
make it. What's happening?
Right.
They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage,
And then we'll
businesses
drive
go
up
out of
inflation
business.
and it
That
won't
is
matter.
simply not true.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within
Oh, boy.
this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border. At least 4,000 kids.
Deep state
You've since
demon.
reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how
Trump
will
gonna
these
respond by
families
saying
ever be
Obama did it?
reunited?
Children
maybe.
are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people,
Oh.
cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into a
Wiley.
God.
We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to
The
come
wall
in
is going to
legally
keep all
when
of
they
those
come
bloody
into
coyotes out, I tell you.
Just tell you.
Kids with their
Let me
families,
just tell you.
Mr.
They
President.
The Israeli-
built cages. You know, they used
The
to
Israeli
say, "I built the
panopticon
cages." And
system
then
is
they
going
had
in the
pictures.
next
The Israelis are going to keep the coyotes out, man. That's what we've been saving them reserved for.
And they said, look at
Coyotes.
these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built. In
Oh, here he goes.
2014.
Let me just imagine what the coyotes are going to think when Black Cube is deployed at the border.
I was promised a wall.
We're trying very hard, but a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels. And
One of the
through
more
coyotes
prescient
and
things
through
Ron
gangs.
Paul asked was, will the wall be used to keep people out or keep people in?
That did make me
500+
consider a
kids
wall might
came
necessarily be a
with
good idea.
Parents. They
We talk about
Before
the
Trump came
American
on.
family guys, you know. You want to talk about their role in Mexico and the 9 people that were killed, how they've been lobbying for JSOC to be deployed there, how they've been in league with NXIVM.
We're with them.
No.
They're separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates
A
every notion
laughing
of who
stock.
we are as a nation.
A laughing stock.
Kristen, they did it. We changed
The worst
policy.
thing is not morality, but the worst thing is how we're perceived around the world.
Are people laughing in Australia? They have some of the toughest immigration laws.
No one is laughing about children in cages. I'm almost
Parents
positive.
were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those
It's
kids
true.
are alone.
Even
Nowhere
with the
to go.
Palantir.
Nowhere to go.
Maybe because
It's
of the
criminal.
Palantir.
Let me ask you about
Say this,
immigration.
they went
10
down, we
seconds, and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of
and
them
have gotten
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with
just
their
ask
families.
one question.
They have like
Who built
at
the
least
cages?
1.5
I'd love you to
space
ask me
blankets
that. Who built the
each.
cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama
Anybody,
administration
no one's
did
going to
fail
mention that
deliver
somebody like
immigration
Stephen
reform,
Miller
which
gets
had been
off
a
on
key
these things.
promise
He
during the
probably does laugh
administration.
at it.
It
You're right,
also
Greg.
presided
Sorry.
over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
And why aren't they going to talk about NAFTA's role in creating that
It took
situation?
too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United
Giant
States, not
sucking
vice
sound.
president
Where's
of the United
Ross
States.
Perot?
And the fact
We
is,
need
I'm
Ross
very clear.
Perot.
within 100
did we
days,
really,
I'm going
though?
to send to the United States Congress
I think we did.
a pathway to citizenship for
Like a
over
monkey.
11 million undocumented people.
I mean, to
And
NAFTA,
all
I mean, what about like talking about the
those
dirty wars that have
so-called
been launched for,
DACA
you know,
kids,
multiple
they're
decades
going
now
to be
in Latin America, and
immediately
the fact that
certified
they
Latin American
Those
death
don't
squad?
exist.
and put on
Yeah.
basis
You know, that
Didn't
doesn't have
happen.
anything to do with the
They are
immigration
being
of this
sent home
country.
by this
Iran
guy,
Contra
and they wanna
affair?
do
Nah,
that.
never.
Is
Yeah.
they're
But
going
see,
to a country
the
they've
once
never
again, the
seen
Democrats
before.
are feckless
I can
in response
imagine
to
you're
it, and so
5
much
years
easier
old,
for
your
the
parents are
Republicans
taking
to
you
just
across the
dog whistle to the
Rio
brown
Grande
people that
River, and it's
are overrunning you,
and you say, oh, no,
while
Mom,
also
leave me
playing.
here.
You know,
I'm not going to go with you.
Thing is the
They've been
Democrats
here.
are just
Many
as
of them are model
complicit.
citizens. Over
Absolutely,
20,000 of them are first
I
responders.
mean, at the end of the day, they are.
Out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them.
Who
We
trained
owe them.
MS-13 in the first place, I wonder?
He had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do.
It's a sad thing. They'll never ever take responsibility for it, or at the minimum, you know, refusing to do anything about it. I mean, Jesus, even after all these
One
years,
of
they're
the
still not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
One of the things Trump can continue to hammer home is that Biden has accomplished next to nothing in almost 50 years. I mean, that is true.
That is true.
I'm surprised
Yes,
Trump hasn't mentioned Operation Fast and the
The
Furious.
catch and release. You know what he's talking about there?
Or the
If in
prison
fact you
bill.
had
Even
a
Biden
family
admitted he got it
came
wrong
across and they were arrested.
Oh God, if I had
crime bill.
if I had a
show up
drink
for a
every
hearing,
time John
they were
Handy mentions
released.
racial
And guess
jungles
what?
on his
They
radio
showed
show, I'd
up
be so drunk.
for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws.
Talk about
Catch and release
NAFTA,
is a
Trump.
disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in.
But he
a
already
very
got
bad
his
person
NAFTA
would
replacement,
come
so he doesn't want to talk
in.
about
We
that
would
anymore.
And it's
take
even
their
worse, I
name.
think.
We have to release
Probably.
them into
Just pushes
our
more
country. And then you say they
RGB
come back.
on the Canadians.
Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case.
Did you say Perry Mason?
They don't come back, Joe. They never come
That was
back.
great.
Only the really
That was like a rap
hate to say
line
this,
almost.
but those
Oh
with the
man,
lowest
he really got
IQ,
Biden
they
with that
might
look.
come
Joe
back.
is just like, wow.
That tickled the
See,
ears.
I mean, you felt the pain on that one.
That tickled the ears of the 7-year-olds that are
No, the law
forced
is
into
telling you
nursing
simply
homes
not
and
true.
haven't seen their
Check
family
it out. They
members
don't
in
come back.
5
Check it out.
months.
All right, let's move
But we don't have
on
to
to
worry
the
about it
next
because I
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
And yet
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's
Go
talk
ahead.
about our next section, which is
Go for it.
race
Shoot,
in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that
COVID.
experience is something called the
But why?
talk. It happens
Vitamin D? I
regardless
don't
of
know.
class and income. Parents who feel they have no
Economics?
choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and
Oh, I bet you do,
she's
Joe.
I once
written
called
a lot
them,
about this. She's
super
has a
predators.
graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work.
Oh, Trump's
And
going to
you
bring
know,
that up. We'll see
That's
that.
why we tried to
One of the
give the
reasons why I
private
ended up working on the
contracting
east side of
firms of the
Wilmington,
prisons an
Delaware,
opportunity to lock
90%
them up.
African-American,
They would have
was
been
to
safer
learn
in
more
prison.
about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a
I did
black
tell her
parent,
to wear
no
super
matter how
predators,
wealthy
though.
or how poor they are, has to teach the child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over,
Especially if you're a
yes,
super
yes, sir,
predator
no,
like
sir,
I
hands
thought
on
you were.
top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be
And I'm the
self-evident.
one to
All
talk
men and
about
women
it.
are created equal. But guess what? have never.
No, he just actually said it was economic.
Constantly been moving the needle further
I mean,
and further.
it's a fair point
inclusion,
in terms of there are aspects of race that transcend economics.
Yeah, there absolutely
We're
are.
not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to.
But he didn't call for
borrow money
jailing wealthy black men back in the 90s.
Things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things. Just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President
It's
Trump,
the ones who
same
were products
question
of
to you,
the,
and let me remind you of
the
the question.
drug
I would
war,
like
which
you to
brought
speak
serious
directly
drugs
to these
into the
families.
cities.
Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994.
Oh, here he goes.
Did such harm to the black community.
Super predators.
Oh,
snap. And he called them super predators. Super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994.
Oh, man.
Your crime bill. The super predators. Nobody
Are you gonna talking about the omnibus bill
Trump.
that Biden tried to get through
with
after
the exception of Abraham Lincoln,
after,
possible exception, but the exception of
Oklahoma
Abraham
City
Lincoln,
that led to
nobody
Patriot
has
Act?
done
Of course not.
What I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even
Biden
think
might
they
admit,
tried because they have no chance at doing it.
He's going to have
They
to.
might
There's
have
just
wanted
no way.
His failure.
There's
But
no
if
way
you
he
had to see
can.
the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried
Like
in
Van
my
Jones.
office. They cried in the Oval Office.
Van
2 weeks
Jones
later, they're
loves
outside,
my
"Gee, we have to defeat him." Criminal
justice reform.
Prison reform.
The Kochs love my
Opportunity
prison
zones with
reform.
Tim
They were the
Scott,
ones who
a
wrote the
great
bill.
senator from South Carolina. He came in with this.
Jared loves it because his dad was unfairly
It's one of the most
treated.
successful programs. People don't
Don't
talk
tell
about
Chris
it.
Christie.
Tremendous
He's still my friend,
investment
even though I make him
in
eat
the biggest
meatloaf.
beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities.
By the way, 50
After
Cent
3
just
years of
endorsed
coming
me.
to the office, I love some of those.
And
people.
Ice
They came
Cube.
into the office, and they said, I said, "What are you doing?" After 3 years, I said, "Why do you keep coming back?" Because we
Predator.
have no funding. I said, "You don't have to come back every year.
And Biden
you have
looks
to come
like-
back because President Obama would never give them
Oh, yeah. See?
long-term
That's a-
funding.
you wanna
And I
fight.
did. 10-year long-term
Biden's
funding.
not
and I
happy.
gave them
He's
more
kind
money
of
Trump
than
does
they asked for
benefit
because I
off
said,
of this
"I think
issue.
you
The
need
problem
more."
is there's
And I
no
said, the only bad part about
substantive
this is
talks
I
about
may
the
never see you
long-term
again
dynamics that
because
have gone
I
on.
got
You know,
very
Biden was
friendly
an
with
old
them,
school
and they
Democrat
like me and I
who
like
was
them.
supportive of
But
a lot
I
of the
say
policies.
to
But also there's no talk of like
colleges
Southern
and
strategy
Okay.
and how
We're
the
gonna talk about
Republicans
both of
basically
your
replaced the old
records, your
Dixiecrats
response
either.
to that
So it goes.
question.
There's a lot of
Response to
there's a
that
lot
is
of
I
layers to
never,
this that do not
ever
get discussed.
said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail.
Wait, he just said he never said that?
And go on my website.
He did, I
get the
think.
quote, the date when he said
We have
it.
video
Not
of
enough
you
people.
actually
He
saying
talked
that,
about
Joe.
marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who, in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for.
This is a
making
good
sure
what
that
about
they got
battle.
the death penalty.
Yeah, it is.
None of them were guilty of what the
But
crime.
see, neither of
the
them will
crimes
admit
they were
they've
They
been
both
wrong about
suck.
any of this.
They both suck on this
Talk about
issue.
And neither will admit they've been
he
wrong
did,
about
in
any of
fact,
this.
let
No.
20 people, he commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people sentences.
Yeah,
Over
Biden didn't
1,000.
admit
The very
anything
law
this
he's talking
time.
about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be
From
doing,
how
there
many
should
million?
be
How many?
no mandatories in the law.
Yeah, we
That's why
reduced
I'm
it by a
offering
whole
$20 billion
2%. It was
states
beautiful. It was a
change their
beautiful
state
prison
laws to
reduction.
eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to
Especially my
rehabilitation,
son. That's a good point.
not to jail.
It's true.
Fundamentally change the system, and that's
That
what
includes
I'm gonna
Don Jr. and Kimberly
Including
Guilfoyle.
your son, too, yeah.
My son will never see the inside of a jail cell.
Neither one of our sons should be inside of a jail cell.
Bo Biden, I mean Hunter Biden.
Time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a good job. If I thought you did a good job,
I had the Russian prostitutes piss on his bed, too, because I really didn't like what he did.
Now, you're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions.
The Iran deal was the worst ever.
I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is. You know his character, you know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth.
And I have nothing else to say that's productive.
Yeah. We know.
Good night,
That's an
everybody.
endorsement right there.
And oy vey.
Yes,
For America.
We know you both.
Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this is true about Russia, Ukraine,
Like you said, you both know us. You all know us.
Yes, we do. Oi, don't remind us.
Don't give me the stuff.
No
about
excuse
Henry,
for
this
Biden
innocent
not to
baby.
go nuclear on
They're calling
his
me
family,
a
but he
corrupt
won't.
politician.
Nope.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump.
The laptop from hell.
Ding, take a drink.
Respond to that.
Please.
Because look, there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
Oh, yeah, because the heads of the
garbage.
CIA would never lie to the American public.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
Exactly what
This is where he's going.
Biden won't talk about Rudy's history, though.
He won't, but man, that was
To be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
Trump just dropped a nuke.
President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. Exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is
I said you were good, but now I don't think you are.
The first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter,
It's 2 against 1 like it always is.
Talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon.
Alex
That's
Jones
a horrible
told me
thing.
this.
And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far
That
as
wasn't Black Lives
my
Matter.
relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do you say to Americans?
I love my blacks.
Whoa!
As long as they're my blacks, I love my blacks.
Come on, Trump. Come on. I'm the best.
least.
I've done the most for blacks since Abraham Lincoln.
I mean, they can say anything.
I'm like an honorary black,
makes me sad.
especially amongst my blacks.
They say Bill Clinton was an honorary black, but I am.
Did I mention that 50 Cent endorsed me?
I hate blacks the least of any white man accused of white supremacism ever.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made
Islam is not a race.
Listening to Rush Limbaugh is going to be fun tomorrow.
This is getting spicy.
Last time we were
It's
on
getting
stage
spicy.
here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on.
No,
This
stand
guy is a
back,
dog
Joe.
whistle about as big
Oh,
as a
Joe had a
foghorn.
moment there.
President Trump, I'm going to
Whoa!
give you 10 seconds to
What?
respond, and then I have a follow-up.
His dog whistle's much bigger than his mushroom.
You said you're Abraham Lincoln.
Where did that? No.
No, he didn't. He said he's.
Since Abraham
Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Joe. God, I'm having to defend Trump here? Good God.
I do think he contemplated whether he might have done more than Lincoln.
Well, but he didn't say he was Abraham Lincoln, though, which is what Joe said he did.
He would say he's done.
That was a senile moment.
He would literally put himself on par with Christ if he didn't have people telling him it was a bad idea.
No, not Christ. Christ Emperor.
Yes.
Let me rephrase President Biden.
Treated them very, very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context.
He's not Jesus, but they hate him all the same, right, Greg?
Yes.
Thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers.
Uh-oh, she's asking Biden about the drug bills, crime bills.
Some of them suffering the consequences. So
All right.
those families, why should they vote?
All right.
One of the things
Apologize.
in the 80s, we passed 100%. All 100 senators voted for it.
Oh, no. He's not apologizing. He's doubling down.
No.
How to deal with drugs.
They did it too.
I've been trying to
But see, Donald Trump will not bring up the climate that caused like these conditions for his drug bill, which is largely the infusion of a lot of these heavy drugs into these cities that were.
No, of course, his Iran-Contra, Jeffrey Epstein network guys did it.
And Biden and the Democrats, there's a lot of obviously bipartisan complicity in that.
And they helped cover it up at the very least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rest in peace.
They should not be going to jail for a drug.
Gary Webb.
Gary Webb.
Oh, Gary Webb.
Yes.
Treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done. Because
and William Barr also. There's a William Barr connection. Also.
Oh, yeah. He actually covered up the actual drug money down in Tegucigalpa.
And he covered up the murder of Danny Castellero and Gary Caradori.
Why didn't he get it?
Wow. Oh, wow.
That's what I'm going to do when I become
He wouldn't allow the Nicholas Baugh to do a complete independent counsel investigation of Gary Caradori.
Why didn't you get it
I didn't
done?
know that.
You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all.
Yeah, Barr's going nowhere, no matter how much certain people want to pretend to be mad at him about no arrests.
Nope.
Prisoners left from
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. We have.
From federal prison.
I'm just going to keep repeating 38,000.
How many federal prisoners were there? Maybe there's not. I don't think there's a million federal prisoners. But this is where you should say this is where we messed up with the crime bills because they pushed it to the states and then they privatized the prisons and then made it a profit industry.
Well, we know this is a for-profit prison started by the Council for National Policy and Jack Eckert, the owner of Eckert Drug Stores and the Heritage Foundation. I've done that. Me and Lee Feldman have done that research.
Oh, dang.
I can tell you exactly
Good
where
point.
he started and show you the documents.
Thousands of mostly.
Not only have you read the documents, but you can show the documents.
I got it from the research we did.
You're the real Alex Jones.
Yes.
So we have a situation here where Donald Trump is actually trying to help,
Republican Congress.
people against overreaching laws. But at the same time, don't the Democrats just want to unleash all the criminals so they can vote and steal elections?
All right. You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move
on
to
Criminal justice reform. Talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both
Oh,
have very
yeah.
different visions on
This will be
climate
fun.
change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to
Trump, they
create
can't hear
new
you.
jobs.
Trump, they
For
can't
each
hear
of
you. Trump, they
how
can't
would
hear
you
you.
both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear
beautiful
water, the
program.
cleanest air.
Lord.
We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big
It's
standard
gorgeous.
that I notice
We're
Obama
not
goes
spraying
with
tons
all
of
the time.
glyphosate all over the United States.
I'm not sure he knows what
The
it
water is
represents or
fine.
That's how I keep my golf courses looking so good in Mar-a-Lago.
It only turns the frogs gay.
That's atrazine.
Sorry.
That's glyphosate's cousin.
Here's what we can
Little demonic cousin.
How filthy it is. Look at Russia.
Filthy.
Look at India.
Russia.
It's filthy. The air is filthy.
It's unclean.
Because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair.
Why can't we
China
have
doesn't
small
kick in
farms
until
again?
2030.
No,
Russia goes
what I
back
find
to a
interesting
low
about this
standard,
is that, like,
and we
because
kicked
the
it
right
away,
is so
it would have been
hell bent on
destroyed our
proving
businesses.
for their
So,
own corporate
you
interests
ready?
primarily
We have
that
done an
climate change is just
incredible
this big,
job
massive, giant hoax. What they
Get the
don't point out is
cleanest
that
air, the
the
cleanest
establishment
water, and the
Democrats
best
are not even
carbon
serious
emission
about
standards
environmentalism.
that we've
They make it
seen
out like
in
they're
many,
these
many
radicals,
years.
like radical environmentalists, and the last thing from it,
Destroyed
they're
our
all about
industries.
their own, like,
Vice President
They're
Biden,
about
2
business
minutes to you,
benefiting.
uninterrupted.
Goldman Sachs carbon credits.
Climate
Yes,
change,
exactly.
Yeah,
climate
exactly.
warming, the global warming is an existential
Climate
threat
warming?
to humanity.
Yes.
We have a
climate change.
Which one are we talking about? Climate, global, what?
And we're told by all
that
the
didn't
leading
sound good,
scientists
Joe.
in the world,
No.
we don't
Climate
have
change is the biggest threat
We're going to pass the point
in
of
the
no
entire
return
world
within the next 8 to 10 years. Former years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to clean up.
Oh, God, you
to
guys
limit
didn't do anything either. Fuck you, Joe.
Limit emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble.
Is anybody
Here's
telling
where we have
China
a
to
great
stop polluting?
opportunity.
Screw you.
I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor.
And yeah, some people might
worried about
consider being
jobs
progressive when it comes to
support
environmental
my
matters.
climate plan.
To a point
Because
of
what
no
it does,
return.
It will create millions of new, good-paying jobs. We're going to invest
The Green
in,
New
for
Deal,
example,
After about
but it's not
30 or 40
AOC's
years.
version, it's mine.
50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing
Why
that.
do we have to
We're
own
gonna
it?
be in
Why
a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant
like an
number
ad.
of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do is going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street, and I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does.
Neither
Not
one
on
of you guys are
climate,
doing
just
anything on the
economy.
environment.
President
Shut up.
came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate.
She knows a lot.
And they're
She's
all
got a
hopping
good
through
line of
hoops for
stuff?
AOC plus 3. Look, a real
AOC
plan
plus
costs $100 trillion.
They really hate me.
If we had the best year in the history of our country,
Rashida
for 100
Tlaib
years,
called me an
we would
asshole or
not
something.
even come close to a number like that. When he
And my
says
tweets
buildings,
too.
they want to take buildings down because
And
they
those
want to make
economic
bigger
interests who want
windows
the
into smaller
Gilded
windows.
Age on
As
steroids,
far
they
as
know
they're concerned,
everything.
if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen.
He's going to take
And
your
this wasn't
windows
done by
away.
Smart people. This wasn't done
You don't
by
vote for me, Joe's
anybody.
gonna take your
Frankly,
guns,
it's
God, and windows.
They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number.
And
He's
two,
trying to
Joe,
say
the
it was six.
windows, really?
It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings.
Instead of
and
them
build
having
new
an
buildings with
argument
little,
about
tiny,
corporations
small windows.
poisoning the
I mean,
environment
many other
heavily
things.
and the
Many other
government,
things.
instead they're arguing about cow
So
farts
let's hear
and
from the
carbon
Vice President. I have
dioxide
a number more
and
questions.
carbon monoxide.
I don't know where he comes up with these numbers. $100 trillion.
Norman Vincent Peale. That's where he
We're
comes
not
from.
going for your
This
windows,
Roy
folks,
Cohn.
I promise.
This is planned endorsed by every major.
Why don't they talk about what's
every major
really
environmental
causing the
group and
CO2
every
to
labor
spike? The
group.
wetlands.
Labor, because they know
And all the
future
fracking.
lies.
Windows.
The future
Oh, no,
lies
they both
us
like
being able
fracking.
to breathe, and they know
I
the
know
good
they
jobs
do.
in getting us there.
Poisoning
And
the
by the
water
way,
with the
the
chemicals in
fastest
fracking.
growing industry in
Fucking
America
ridiculous.
is the electric.
Well, both party
the,
establishments at the end of the day
solar
love
energy,
that kind
and
of
wind.
love that.
That's
He
true
thinks wind
science, but
causes
the
cancer.
science says that all
Windmills.
these chemicals
It's the
are safe,
fastest
so.
growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45.
Trump wasn't
$50 an
bothered
hour.
by that
We
accusation.
can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent.
What?
I know more about wind than you do. It's
I thought Iraq was
extremely
about
expensive,
Israel, actually.
Kills all the birds.
Yeah, but big
It's
about
very
oil, isn't
intermittent. It's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean.
It is
One other
a-
thing.
it is all
Solar.
scam.
Solar.
It's
Said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories.
Especially when
that
we have
need
so-called
to
national
compete
security
with the
suppressed
world.
all of the patents.
So it's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you
We're
want
gonna let all our resource oligarchs run out all of the minerals.
And what about fracking?
All right, let me have.
Oh, here he goes.
I have never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I love fracking.
The fact
Oh,
is,
so noble.
The water.
I love putting so many chemicals in the water.
Then why is this a good thing?
We need other industries.
Oh man, Biden almost lost it there for a minute.
A complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure
zero
that we
emissions
can
by
capture
2025.
Emissions
God, it's impossible.
Capture the emissions.
I think he just made that up on the spot because he hadn't said that before.
That's impossible.
It's a transition.
California is trying to do that by 2024.
He was against fracking.
By 2024?
No cars. They don't.
no cars.
I don't know. No cars, and I don't know about zero emissions, but they're really talking about it.
He'll be against it very soon because
they don't want any more
party
gasoline
is totally
cars.
against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said no fracking and or oil on federal
Let
land.
me ask this final question in this section.
Only
Borky,
no
fracking. Our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Good question.
We're talking about
Deep state demon.
heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made.
People are making lots of money while they get cancer.
For Hispanic,
Poisoning the people.
Black, for Asian.
You win some, you lose some.
9 times
You
greater
get
the percentage
you get a
gain
raise,
than
you
it
get
was
cancer.
in 3 years than it was under 8 years.
You get a job,
of the
you lose
two
your
of
uncle.
them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives. I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back
regulations with the Heritage Foundation and the CMP.
And now it's very vibrant again. And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute chemical plants and oil plants and refineries.
But the thing is the plants are going to pollute just as much during Biden as they do as Trump. It doesn't matter.
Refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there were first frost
Obama didn't
to
stop
drive me
any
to
of
school,
this.
turning the windshield over, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them. It matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have
Biden
one
won that
final
round.
question.
Close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Or would you close down the oil
By the way, I would transition
Yeah,
from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. Over
How about
time. And I'd stop giving
alcohol
to
engines?
the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas.
The farmers can grow the alcohol.
Solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give it to solar and wind. And that's maybe the biggest statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because basically what he's saying is he is going to destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes
Trump
everything
sounds
out of
desperate.
context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production. By 2050, totally.
All right.
What about supercapacitors and alcohol vapor engines?
To move on to our final question. We have to
I'm
move on
going
to
to
our
rejoin
final
Paris
question.
Accord and make
Are
China
you going to get
abide
China
by
to do
what
it?
they agreed to.
Oh, China ain't going to abide by
Leadership,
shit,
gentlemen.
Joe.
And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Ms.
We have to make a country
lock them up
totally successful, because it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million.
Oh man,
jobs
he's
in a
putting the
short period
pen
of
up
time,
now.
etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They
Do you think
wanted
the
to
Tomahawk shark's going to come out one
is
more
going to
time when
bring us
Biden takes
together.
the
We are on the
platform?
road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
He will kill the
Your
Koch's golden
401ks
goose.
will go to hell.
He will do
It'll be a
everything
very,
that they
very sad
promised
day for this
Obama was
country.
going to do
All right.
8 and 12
Vice
years
President
ago.
Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
At least I'm not Trump.
I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to
Trump
move.
looks
We're going
worried
to
to me.
choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better.
But how about
We can
Donald
grow this
Barr's
economy.
science fiction?
We can deal with the systemic racism, and at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy.
You're going to run the
creating
economy?
Millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning,
What else are you going to run?
on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating
wish.
people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting
No,
it the
Biden's
last
just going to
4
bring
years.
back in the neocon, paleo neocon, neoliberal. Let's
a fantastic debate. Really
not be so
appreciate it.
open
President
about
Trump,
what
former
how
Vice
mean we
President
are.
Joe Biden. Thank
Do it
you
more
to Belmont
stealthily.
University for hosting us tonight, and most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone.
Oh my gosh,
and
I
have a
almost
great
forgot.
night.
I wish I could thank you, lady, but I'm not thankful. I'm really not.
I even forgot there was an election going on.
Trump, Joe Biden, two
Yeah, it's kind of sad to think about it, so I usually don't.
Two very different candidates. What we've heard tonight over the course of the 90 minutes as we see Melania Trump come on the stage.
Oh, Melania's wearing a
tonight,
mask. How about
It's
that?
two very different visions of how to handle the COVID crisis, how the COVID crisis would.
All right, you
Yeah,
guys.
Donald Trump does look like a walrus right there.
Final thoughts. This was a better debate, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
It was, but I still
obviously-
frankly feel like suing them for the half an hour, hour and a half of my life I'll never get back.
I mean, there was still very honestly, there was not a whole lot of substance because, by and large, because both guys have their vulnerabilities that the other's not going to address, and by and large, ultimately, it is a bunch of, I would say, at the end of the day, combination of empty rhetoric and then also just complete, not being forthright about what you actually represent. But from like a I think they very clearly, both of them were like instructed, not to act like complete asses this time, and so in that case, much more civil. I think it'd be much harder to make a case that like this was just some like dyed in the wool person out to get Trump like they tried to do after the first debate.
And I don't think I don't think Trump hit Biden as hard as he needed to.
Can't hear you, John, for some reason.
Can you guys hear me now? Hello? No, that's weird. Okay.
You're really low, at least in my ear.
I am for some reason on Zoom. Let me see if I can fix it.
Same here. I haven't been able to hear him for a while.
Yeah.
You guys go ahead and talk for a minute. Let me see if I can fix it.
Who's silencing John?
I guess I'll make one more point until we wait for John to come back, is that like nothing was done. Like the people who've already made up their minds are like this. Nobody's going to be swayed by this either.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially at this point, I mean, it's this is really more theater than anything.
But I will say one thing where Trump is really able to take advantage of Biden, I said this earlier and I'll reiterate, is that like Biden's been there forever, and and this is something like some of these very serious-minded, liberal progressive type of people who are really serious about the corruption of like the Trump family and the Trump administration and what it represents from like a global policy perspective. There's gonna be a day of reckoning where you have to acknowledge that like Joe Biden and these establishment Democrats are, they're directly complicit. They're largely the reason for the rise of the Trump-like figure because of, and that is one area where like Trump and everything from the race stuff to so many other issues is that like Trump could take advantage of the fact that like Biden represents this broken establishment that has done nothing for people for decades now.
Well, I think they're keeping that in the wings more in the event that Biden wins, because, yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of the progressive wing of the party really does hate Biden. Right now that's kind of being covered up by the fact that they hate Trump so much. But
yes.
If they get their guy
fear of Trump is
all that animosity is going to start coming out, if Biden's not able to dramatically change things within 6 months, which he's not. So,
Which is why I don't think Biden's going to win, because they're going to have a very much kind of a very strong progressive candidate in 2024 to kind of match Trump's chaos candidacy, kind of like an Aquarian left. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. That's why because Biden represents so much of the old world order and is detested by so many progressives, even though they might vote for him this time because they dislike Trump so much.
Yeah,
they like Biden a little bit more than Hillary Clinton. They can swallow it just a little bit more.
Fear of Trump is way more motivating people to vote for Biden than any type of like passion for Joe Biden. I can't imagine very many people being passionate about Biden Harris.
Yeah, the honeymoon would be very, very short-lived if Biden wins.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Trump is going to lose a lot of his base or many people that voted for him last time. And I'm not voting, but I think I'm probably in the minority in that regard of Trump voters who are conservative.
But I think it does look like there's a shift in parts of his base in certain states.
I still think, Jeremy, that when it comes time to actually show up to the polls, they'll hold their nose and they'll vote for him.
I can't hear you.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
I think it's likely that when it is time to vote for Trump, that they will hold their nose and vote for him. I'm pretty sure about that.
But do you think they're going to steal? I think they would have to steal it at this point.
You're going to have John Kenneth Blackwell and Karl Rove. Come on. They're
another thing that no one will call out. Trump can make all the talk in the world he wants about about stolen elections and all of the things corrupt Democrats are doing. And obviously, Democrats talk a lot about voter suppression, all this and that. But, the elephant in the room of and look, I know it goes on probably on both sides of the political aisle, John. But in terms of what we know about Rove and Blackwell and, both 2000 and 2004 operations, it remains an elephant in the room that, no one's seriously discussing.
No.
Yeah, I could see that. And George from CapDev.org has shown that there is election fraud on the left too as well. And he's a progressive, but he's honest about it.
But not at the presidential level, though. Maybe is that at the local level or the state level or something like that?
It's a national level too in Congress, and he has seen it too as well for the presidents too. It goes back and forth. But there seems and I'd love to have you guys actually talk with him, because he is a strong progressive, but he talks. I talk a lot about John Kenneth Blackwell. I call him a vote rigging fraud, but he talks about it to the other side also occurring, but it occurs differently.
Yeah, I definitely could see that it would make a lot of sense that the Dems are rigging primaries. Obviously, they seem to have somehow rigged the last two presidential primaries.
Yeah, very much so. And there's a lot of issues with exit polls too, that you see. Actually, more with the left than you do the right in a lot of ways.
I'd be interested what kind of evidence George could dig up on a couple of things. One would be the Cynthia McKinney in 2006 in Georgia, and then also a lot of these types of messing around that caused someone like Dennis Kucinich to lose his seat in Ohio as well. I'd be very intrigued by those types of operations because I do think there's a lot to be with those. That's just a couple of examples, but I'd be very interested about whatever information could be found about those particular instances.
Yeah,
because how about the election frauds of Mel Carnahan or Paul what's his name from
Paul
Minnesota?
Wellstone.
Yeah, Wellstone. That's a very severe election fraud.
I try to call it election fraud now instead of voter fraud because voter fraud seems as like it's because of the people, and election fraud, George actually helped me with that, is more based off of these various interest groups trying to influence elections.
Well, yeah, those are two different things. Voter fraud is when people stuff the ballots and there's not it happens, but there's not tons of stuff. But election fraud is where it's rigged either via the machines or counting, that kind of stuff. And that's actually swung, obviously, some of our elections in this century.
Yes, very much so. So do you guys think that Trump's going to win, or do you guys think Biden's going to win?
I think it's going to be a strung out disaster, very possibly, unless the sort of things sort of continue in the way that they look like they're going, where it's too big a lead to fraud up.
Well, from what I understand, though, the gap has been narrowing, though, in recent weeks. It does seem like the stuff with Ukraine has been hammering away a bit at Biden's alleged, massive lead.
Yeah. I've seen that. Very much so.
Also,
what about you, Suzanne?
His tax, well, I mean, two rappers with millions of followers have decided, because of Biden's tax, the taxes he wants to implement.
It was Ice Cube and who else?
50 cents.
50 cent, man.
Do you guys think? Do you guys think
worth 11 cents?
Do you guys think Kanye's because Kanye's only on some in some of the ballots? Do you think he's going to get any voters for him at all, or do you think Howie Hawkins and Joe Jorgensen are going to get more votes?
Well, be prepared for Howie Hawkins and Joe Jorgensen to get blamed for whoever wins, because they had the nerve to actually try to run in a free election.
Oh, is Howie Hawkins the Green Party candidate?
Yes, he is.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard the name of the Green Party candidate. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant.
He's literally Jeremy. He's literally having the platform because my neighbor's got a Howie Hawkins sign in their yard.
Wow.
Is literally vote for green, as in vote for bud, marijuana and stuff like that and everything.
I've seen 2 Joe Jorgensen signs. I've never seen a Howie Hawkins
sign. He's not even on the ballot here in Kansas.
That's interesting.
Our friend, our mutual acquaintance of ours, Jeremy, mentioned to us about how Howie Hawkins was taken off the ballot in Pennsylvania under less than seems forthright circumstances.
The Democrats, right, were behind that, right?
Yeah.
Didn't get the I guess Howie Hawkins didn't get the Jill Stein Russia money and push, huh?
I guess not.
Do you guys think there was a much amount of psychographical warfare going on in this election? Because Cambridge Analytica was working for both sides this election. I guess apparently if you do the research, possibly maybe last election too, surprisingly enough. But it seems that the whole McChrystal Flynn ties with Cambridge of them running, 2 similar ops, both defeat disinfo and psychographical warfare, actually seems to be attacking all American citizens at this point.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely been a massive all-out blitz, and there's been some things that have come out too in regards to some of these quasi-cults that we've started to see emerge, especially with the QAnon thing. And that's something you and I, John, are going to talk about in the farm here pretty soon. But and then as to the question of which way the election is going to go, I mean, I still tend to lean towards Trump. And I mean, I sort of think a tip of the hand was Pelosi, talking about reinitiating the impeachment proceedings. It's just kind of like, if you're that certain that Biden's going to win, why would you be trying to impeach Trump in October when theoretically he's going to be voted out in weeks? You've got an economy crashing from COVID. You've got all kinds of geopolitical tension emerging everywhere. But going to try to launch a frivolous impeachment thing, it's ridiculous. To me, that just really reeks of desperation on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I could see that.
But if you were concerned that that Trump was not going to relinquish the office, and there were reason to impeach, you would do it. But of course, Nancy Pelosi did neither of those. Because, and actually Nancy Pelosi seems to have been one of the biggest enablers of the protectors of Trump. And and often it's like because they They like running against him. They like fundraising against him. It's very similar to what she did with George W. Bush when the actual progressive base was pushing towards, impeachment around Iraq War. Even there was 9/11 stuff in Dennis Kucinich's articles of impeachment for George W. Bush, and Nancy Pelosi just sat on it. And also that was after the 2006 election, which Jonathan Simon, who wrote Code Red, and he updates it basically every congressional round, basically says that even in these cases where the Democrats seem to have gained a lot of seats, like in 2006 or 2018, that it actually looks that there is an election fraud swing, that actually they would have doubled the amount of seats that they gained. And of course, Nancy Pelosi sits on all of it.
And I'll say about Pelosi is that, Pelosi is very much like a boogeyman for like the Trump base. I mean, definitely.
Yeah,
but I agree
she's a major rallying point for the Republicans, no doubt.
I agree with you, Jerry. I agree about this, about the Pelosi thing with Bush. And the thing is like, remember at first, Pelosi was not wanting to go towards any type of like impeachment vote. And then eventually, I think there was just so much genuine anger and frustration with the Trump administration that was not there under Bush, for better or for worse. I would say for worse, honestly. But there was that sentiment that was there, was so strong that you had to do something, and it resulted in like this ultimate, just to quote Van Jones, nothing burger of an impeachment sham that came out where none of the real serious stuff was really put on the table.
And the main problem is
the weakest thing.
They raked up so much money. The DNC did. For people angry at the Trump administration. I mean, a crap ton of money. And so it's like, where did all that money go? We know it didn't go to the election. A lot of it came to many people that, serve the Democratic Party. So, a lot of people should be outraged on that, on the left side, but they don't.
It's interesting.
They don't care.
It's interesting that this is the same thing like Trump was supposed to cash out when he lost the 2016 election and start his own network. Well, it seems a lot of the Democratic establishment doing the same thing, cashing in on this chaos presidency.
Yeah. I'm going to be most interested to see, like, if Biden were to, quote unquote, win, what's going to happen with the anti-Trump base, and especially like what I call the 11-9 truthers, who went to the depth of what the media and the Democrats were not saying about how corrupt the Trump operation really was, and whether they're just going to, once Biden gets in and does the Obama, we're just going to look forward, not backwards.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, and then so we'll see what people's actual moral and patriotic fiber is really made of, in the case, I believe, of a Biden win, especially in that sphere, that real, there's a certain amount of authenticity intellectually around their anti-Trumpism, and it's not just orange man bad. But my sense is that it's going to go away under a Biden administration. They're not even going to push for accountability on Trump.
But Jeremy, it's the same thing if Trump wins and then he says, just like Trump said with Hillary Clinton, leave her alone. He says, leave Biden alone. Leave Soros alone. He's a good guy,
Well, of course. I mean, he's not even talking about lock her up anymore, and the whole thing about a couple weeks ago, he was actually seemed like he was angry at Barr for not prosecuting people, and that already went away.
I think there's a case could be made that a lot of that, I mean, I don't know if maybe it was genuine frustration on Trump's part, but I think also we can look at that as like, oh, the base was all excited. Oh, the big October surprise, the term before. But also I think there's almost like a knowledge that there was going to be nothing to come out of it. So when nothing happens, you have to find somebody to blame. So
yeah, so it's gonna be very interesting, when this happens, because I can see that definitely happen where, Joe's been through enough, just leave him alone. And we got to reconcile the nation. The same thing happened over the last election. When it came to Clinton.
Biden's case, he's an old man. He's riddled with dementia, I think there would be that kind of, let him just go out into the pasture, essentially.
But he also hasn't been president for 4 years, and he hasn't committed, national security crimes for the last 4 years in that way. And and also he's not actually the president who committed the crime in that way. So that, of course, he's going to be let back out to pasture at some level.
But what about the crimes that Biden committed during the 8 years under Obama, or the Obama crimes in and of themselves? No one's going to hold anybody accountable for anything.
No, Jeremy. Obviously not. Obviously not, and that's already over. Yeah. No, that's my point though, is that in terms of like that the accountability that actually could potentially happen in this moment from a Trump presidency to a Biden presidency, which would be about actual crimes potentially in relationship to that presidency, is likely going to be put under the rug if that's what happens, which I actually think what we're really facing is potentially some drawn out crisis potentially.
I don't see anything happen on it. No one's going to jail. That's been my motto.
Yeah.
You might have a few people here and there like Manafort get thrown under the bus, but in generalities, no one extremely high up is going to jail. And it's
I mean, I think, initially that may not be a big issue on the left. But, once the honeymoon, like I said, with Biden is over with, I think a lot of that sentiment is going to come back up again. I mean, why didn't you do anything to all the crooks in the Trump administration and what have you, with all the other stuff coming to a boil, so to speak.
Well, Jeremy brought up the look forward and not backward as it related to like the Bush era and Obama. And what's interesting is that like this is the similar moment to that, whereas like the reason, people within positions of power and influence wanted to look forward and not backward is because, the 9/11 operation itself, the legacy of the 9/11 operation, as well as the 9/11 September 11th operation itself was, I mean, that was obviously beyond, the areas you're not supposed to touch in terms of like what happened there in the courses and interest, obviously, of power that benefit from that operation in the aftermath of it. It's the same way with like the very real global collusion that brought Trump into office, is that these are interests that nobody within like the political establishment wants to ultimately really touch and rein in. So
gotta fill the swamp to drain the swamp. So. Any more closing thoughts, you guys, on a better debate? Trump should have gone more in on Biden. Biden could have been more cohesive with his thoughts. With Hillary, the base really wants Trump to say, get a good lock him up. If I was president, you'd be in jail for all your crimes, or your son would be in jail. And that didn't happen tonight. It didn't happen. So it was kind of a faulty. Fault on Trump on that part, because the base, would need that. So I really don't know. Okay, let me ask you this: who do you guys think won this debate, if possible, if there's even an answer to that?
I mean, I think it was pretty even, in my opinion. I mean, both guys got some good shots in. They had, some good moments, some bad moments. I mean, it's, it is what it is, I mean, I don't think there was really a clear-cut winner there. It was just, pathetic all around, essentially, of the American political structure in 2020.
I thought Biden got a few really good shots in when it came to like China, for example. Trump was actually kind of on the defensive, on the ropes a bit when it came to some of that. But ultimately, I think, honestly, and this is a trending theme that we've been seeing go on throughout this, is that once again, I mean, Trump was much more able to hit Biden in areas where Biden is vulnerable than the other way around, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely the case that within their own controlled environments, Trump is a little bit will leave the reservation a little bit more than Biden will, obviously. But I think in terms of this specific debate, they both played their role and got in their little shots within their own little controlled environment, and it probably won't change anything.
And all the partisan pundits are going to say their candidate won, etc.
Breaking news: Bernie Sanders says that he would love Biden to nominate him as labor secretary.
Oh God.
Yeah, that'd be a good position for him, I guess.
But that's very interesting. It looks like.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
That's it. Nice.
Give everybody $15 an hour.
But I don't think that's going to end up. I don't think that's going to end up happening, though.
It'd be smart if Biden.
Yeah, I could actually see them throwing the progressives a bone, putting Bernie somewhere in the cabinet.
They'll throw the progressives a bone with Bernie, and they'll throw Les Wexner a bone with John Kasich.
Yeah. Whoosh.
Especially since labor's a pretty insignificant position anyway. I mean.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, let Bernie have that. I mean, he can spend, 4 years debating $15, an hour minimum wage in Congress or something, and nothing will come to pass.
He's gonna name Pocahontas the head of the Commerce Department, and then all of America's gonna die along with the suburbs and the white women.
Oh, and it'll be interesting to hear like the right, who's so angry at Andrew Cuomo over the nursing scandals, lose their minds of Cuomo, prospect of him becoming an attorney general. But Cuomo, I think, would practically be a guarantee that the really mobbed up interest around all things Trump would largely go unscathed, because the Cuomo family's compromised with so many of those same interests, I believe.
Yeah.
Greg, you're so cynical, Greg.
Yes, no one's going to jail, Greg. How dare you? All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. Jeremy Roth Kushel and Greg McCarran from The Antidote. Go subscribe. You got most of y'all in the audience know who they are. Dear friends of the show and excellent researchers. Recluse from visaview.blogspot.com and the Farm Podcast. Go subscribe and read Recluse's blog. And Suzanne, maybe one day we'll have you get something up. I definitely want to thank you for coming on too as well. All right, everybody, have a good evening. God bless you.
John.
And it was a complete crap show for the most part. So good luck. Bye.
God bless you, John.
Thank you.